Hello everyone, it's Benjamin Zaemisch, founder of Move, Learn, Create and the creator of Themanicserenity, Serenity, where I help people to understand and then align themselves with the mechanics of creation so that we can together access new levels of fulfillment, embrace the magic that's available to us in this life as human beings, and ultimately consciously evolve or begin to consciously evolve further into that human possibility. So welcome to the first episode of what will be the weekly broadcast here, my weekly show, and let's get right into it. I want to start by reading you something. Usually I won't do this. I won't come on here and read something. I'll be talking about a specific topic of the human experience, deconstructing some aspect of this life in a way that will empower you and equip you with tools and understandings that will help you on your unique journey as you strive in your own way to become the best version of yourself. But to start, I just want to do this to honor the journey, honor the way that this all came to be, and read you something that I wrote about 4.5 years ago, right before I got out of prison. And this was right at the moment where everything truly began to shift in my life. It wasn't an overnight thing, but definitely there was this incredible period of time where finally there had been enough structure, there had been enough effort, there had been enough time with my intentions and my actions being aligned in the proper way, where I was able to witness the inertia of my past life, the struggles, the challenges, the obstacles that had destroyed me. I watched all of that force that had been opposing me begin to pass away. And in place of it, I felt this new momentum, this new power, this new possibility. And I began to see very clearly what was available for us all as human beings. Now, at the time, I was only concerned about myself. I never imagined that I would be teaching. I didn't imagine I would ever share anything with anyone, let alone be trying to teach my methods or share the tools and understandings that I had used. But it was just this time where I wanted freedom so badly. I wanted total liberation so badly. So fervently was I seeking and striving for this. And all of a sudden, there came a time when I was able to actually see it. I was able to actually glimpse, at least for these moments, what actually is available to all of us. And I wrote something. It was in the spring of 2016, and I wrote something. I called it my discourse on mastery. So it's almost comical because there I am, writing with a pen and a little notebook that I got from the prison. I'm writing my discourse on mastery. And to tell you the truth, I actually have not read this in probably 3 years. I remember kind of what it's about, but I don't remember really how it is written. I think I read it to one of my sisters a few years ago, and that was the last time I looked at it. But I wanted to do it this way because I wanted to honor that voice. I know if I go back into it, it's up on my computer right now, and I know if I go back into it, I'm gonna wanna change things, I'm gonna wanna update it, I'm gonna wanna make it more, relevant and immediate to where I'm at now. But I don't want to do that. I just want to honor this time, this moment where I first kind of saw the light at the end of the tunnel, where I first really realized that it wasn't just that I was able to change for the better. I was truly in a position to transform and begin to approach the ultimate possibility that is laid out in front of all of us. So I'll get started. Here it goes. I hope this resonates with you and can transmit to you some of that same fire, that same, that feeling of the possibility and that potential, and urge you on to strive even harder than you already are, as we all seek to accept and grasp, take hold of this incredible life and everything that is truly being offered to us in it as we all explore the human condition. So here we go. The Discourse on Mastery by Benjamin Zaemisch. Okay, so the first thing that I would like to discuss is the concept of mastery. My own thoughts on the subject are very concise, but before I share them, we have to establish a clear, comprehensive definition of what that word actually means, at least in relation to the way I will be using it when I give my own assessment and what I hope will be a practical approach to the subject. According to a very popular modern theory, mastery is the innate ability to perform a task plus 10,000 hours of practice. I believe that, especially for a generalization of this nature, this statement is incredibly accurate. However, as with all things, the true meaning and value is found well below the surface, so that is where we must look. For the sake of this presentation, we're going to set up our definition like a math equation, making it easier to analyze its separate parts and then reassemble once we've found the common denominators. So, mastery equals innate ability plus 10,000 hours. That's our equation. First, what is innate ability? The most common response would be that it is when a person has a natural ability to perform a task well, perhaps more easily than others and without as much training. This is true, but it is a very shallow assessment of something that is, in fact, subject to a multitude of variables that are almost always ignored. Most importantly, we are, as individuals, very infrequently placed in situations to actually discover what our natural talents are. Our exposure to new situations is largely homogeneous and determined by cultural expectations and encumbering social obligations. In the lives of most young people, their choices and their activities are not at all their own, but those of their parents. And even in the cases where the children are free to choose, they're only allowed access to what is available within the cultural and social limitations of their time and area. Also, most of us are generally so much at the mercy of outside influences and transitory emotional patterns that we rarely give ourselves enough time with a new activity to actually discover if we have an affinity for it that stems from a concrete, permanent part of ourselves that is not under an external influence at the time. This list could go on, but it should already be quite clear that while the definition of innate ability is quite simple, the task of actually discovering what those abilities are is not. My contention is this: since every experience is one that takes place within the individual and is completely subjective to the perceiver because of his or her own filters of perception, anything that a person can truly appreciate, anything that touches a person on a level beneath all of the noise and influences of everyday life, that person has the innate ability to perform or create. How can it be otherwise? If the pattern of a thing does not already lie within ourselves, we could not possibly appreciate it because our own personal experience of that thing would be one without understanding, let alone appreciation. Stop for a second and think about the wonder of that truth. Everything that touches you or impacts you because of what you perceive as existing outside of you only does so because of what already lies within you. As you can clearly see, the tasks for which we have innate ability are immeasurably more available than what we have believed. Now, what is the significance of 10,000 hours of practice? This seems like a self-evident factor in our equation, but I assure you that it is not. There is a colossal divide between having practiced something enough to perform it perfectly and complete mastery of that same task. Most simply put, one is a conscious act and the other is not. Because we are so disconnected from our true essence, we lose sight of that place within us where the patterns of beauty and creation own impressions upon our being. The place that is reached by those who can perform a task with true mastery and evoke something within us from beneath the noise of our minds. That place is the realm of the subconscious, and it is a limitless kingdom to which we were all born with total direct access, but over time we forget about it or disregard it. When we already have the appreciation of a thing within us, and we practice, we consciously intend a connection with the most perfect, undiluted essence of that thing over and over for years and years, 10,000 hours, we access through that one task the true energetic substance of beauty and creation that dwells in our subconscious, and we then, by definition, achieve mastery. Mastery is direct connection to the infinite source to which each of us has a channel within our subconscious, and through the performance of a certain task, mastery manifests as an act of pure creation. Okay, I gotta scroll down. It is my assertion that we can bring about mastery in all aspects of our lives, every facet of our being, through a relentless, conscious act of intention, 10,000 hours of practice, not to access our subconscious through the performance of one certain task, but to connect our entire being with the infinite domain which we have within us. And my final contention, before we start the show, is that there is a famous ancient quote which in the most profoundly beautiful and exquisitely succinct way possible expresses not only the totality of what I've attempted to share with you, but also every element of the truth that you feel in your heart. This widely misunderstood statement contains the essence of the knowledge that is the birthright of humanity, and the subtleties from which it is built, when fully impressed upon your subconscious mind, will become the threads out of which your salvation will be woven, the garments in which your divinity will be clothed. For anyone who aspires towards mastery, towards conscious participation in the eternally present miracle of creation, or simply to witness in their lives the unfolding of the latent potentialities that they feel within their spirits, in these words will be found the answer, the highest ideal for which there is no substitute, for these words were first spoken by the one who the world called Master. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all of these things will be added unto you. Ooh! So that captures it so perfectly. It brings me back so intensely to that period of my life, and now I believe that I can see far more clearly than I could at the time what it was that I was actually trying to articulate to myself, because I wrote this for myself. I wrote this to try to define a awareness, to try to capture, give a snapshot of a certain feeling that was coming up inside of me. And I believe what it was, although I hadn't really got there yet, I hadn't been able to define it clearly enough to understand what was happening. This was the moment when the struggle, the divide, in myself that I had experienced my whole life between the quote unquote real world and my spiritual aspirations. This was the moment when these two began to connect, or at least I was able to conceive that there could be a connection, a fusion of these two. You see, we're brought into the world and we're taught all of these phenomenal, fantastic things. All the answers that were given to our most profound questions, our hardest questions. We're told these answers with total certainty by those who claim to possess the knowledge. And we're given this entire list of beliefs. Beliefs to refer back to when we become troubled, when we have an experience of something that goes beyond our ability to, intellectually define or to conceptualize within our rationale. We have these beliefs to fall back on that are given to us and are defined for us as the most important thing. The all everything umbrella of truth over the entirety of creation. Yet then, as we grow up and we go out into the world, as we pay more and more attention, it becomes so clear and so obvious that nowhere in the real world, nowhere in the day-to-day lives of those who preached to us. Nowhere are these truths actually externalized or realized by their actions. They're not brought into the world as a living reality. They remain words. Everything else in our life becomes concrete, becomes actualized. Our visions, we watch them unfold. We have to overcome challenges that are so real. We have to struggle through pain that is so real. We have to endure heartache that is so real. We endure loneliness because of our uniqueness that is never reconciled, because we've never been empowered to express that uniqueness into the world in a way that will allow us to connect with everyone else. So ultimately, we all are left alone. We don't have in our real living experience an actual substantial manifestation, a real expression of these supposedly all-important truths that were so casually handed to us when we first asked the questions. So what does this do? It rips us in two. It causes a divide. It causes this tear in our being, the ultimate thing for which there can be seemingly no reconciliation. We have ourselves going in these two directions. We have within us this treasured part, this sacred part of our spirit that we hold to be so dear. Yet all day, every day, we are forced to act by the momentum of life, by the conditions under which we have come into subjugation, control. I mean, how free are we really when we are forced by the momentum of our life, by the speed of the world? We're forced by these realities to be a way that doesn't align at all with these words, these beliefs, these sacred definitions, these holy answers to our most deepest questions that truly for us have not become a living reality. And this piece of writing, this discourse on mastery, for me, I feel like it was a reflection of this moment in time where I saw it for myself. And if I saw it for myself, I knew it was possible for everyone, because we're all the same. And I could see that heaven on earth was a living possibility. That unification of all there is into one conscious expression of the magic and miraculous nature of this creation that we're a part of. This was available to us now. And this was not a separate thing from the quote-unquote real world, that we had just kind of accepted a description of the world that didn't connect, but that there was a way to connect all of the pieces. And that is a perfect place to start the journey of thematic serenity. That's a perfect way to kind of define what it is that we're all here to do. So I'm going to leave it there, and then next week I'm going to follow this up with one more piece, one more thing that I wrote just after this, or maybe just before this. I've been trying to remember, and I'm not exactly certain, but it was the same time, spring of 2016, just before I came back into the world, and it was another kind of conviction that takes this a step further and says, not only is this magic available to us and immediately accessible, but in fact, it already belongs to us. And actually, we've already experienced it. So we're going to look into the phenomenon of youth. And that'll be in the next week, and I can't wait to see you guys there. Thank you so much for sharing this with me today. Be sure to head over to themanicserenity.com. I'll try to put all the links under the video. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but hopefully they'll be there when you look. But if you go to www.themanicserenity.com, I have spent the last 2 months crafting some incredible resources for you, putting together the best tools that I can, the most immediately practically applicable set of methods and frameworks that can definitely immediately bring about rapid transformation, a new experience of momentum, all of the things that we need to be empowered to really truly express the potential that is bubbling under the surface in all of us, this phenomenal opportunity that we all so badly don't want to see wasted. So please head over there, get access for free to the 3-part Momentum Masterclass. It's a beautiful, wonderful training. I'm already working on the next one for you guys. And until then, I'll see you next time.